Official colony records state that human memories on planet Elysia physically crystallize because of the heavy atmosphere, but they never warn you about finding a massive lie frozen in glass. Kale always believed his little boy, Leo, died from the common settlement fever 5 years ago. That was the official medical report everyone accepted. But everything changed during a routine supply excavation in Sector 4 yesterday. Kale unearthed a small glowing blue shard, completely buried in the toxic red dirt. It carried the unique energy signature of his son. When he touched the cold surface, the violent memory uploaded directly into his brain. It was not a peaceful sickness at all. The brief vision showed a terrifying metallic shadow ripping the crying child away in the dark, while colony doctors just stood there and coldly watched. The sudden shock made Kale drop to his knees, gasping for air as his reality shattered into pieces. This simple piece of broken crystal destroyed his entire past in exactly 3 seconds. The official story was a complete fabrication, and someone had deliberately erased the terrible truth forever. To uncover this hidden truth, Kale knew he had to consult the person who mattered most. He returned to his small cabin, where his beautiful wife Ilara was waiting. Their bond was the only thing keeping him sane on this harsh planet. When he walked through the door, Ilara immediately sensed his deep panic. She did not ask empty questions. Instead, she gently placed her warm hands on his trembling shoulders, offering silent strength. Kale looked into her kind brown eyes and simply handed her the glowing blue shard. As the cold memory flowed into her mind, a single tear rolled down her pale cheek. They held each other tightly in the quiet room, sharing a profound moment of shared grief and renewed determination. No more lies could stand between them now. Ilara softly kissed his forehead and whispered that they needed to find the rest of the memories. The only place those missing fragments could be hidden was deep inside the legendary memory mines. It was a restricted zone of pure danger, but their quiet love demanded real answers from the dark today. Going down into the memory mines was practically a death sentence for any normal colonist. The cave system was a vast, twisted network of sharp glass tunnels that reflected endless broken lives. Kale packed a heavy breathing unit, kissed Ilara one final time at the airlock, and started the long climb down into the abyss. With every step deeper into the earth, the pressure steadily increased, violently pushing foreign thoughts into his unprotected mind. He saw a stranger's forgotten wedding, another man's childhood terror, and the sudden grief of an old widow. The environment was trying to tear his sanity apart by feeding him chaotic emotions. He gritted his teeth and focused entirely on the warm memory of Ilara's sweet smile. That simple image was his only anchor in the swirling ocean of madness. The walls glowed with a toxic purple light, illuminating the treacherous path ahead. Sharp rocks cut his heavy boots, but the physical pain actually helped him stay grounded. He was getting closer to the core of the planet, where all the darkest colonial secrets were buried for many long years. Those buried years started fighting back almost immediately. The deeper Kale went, the more the atmosphere began stealing his own precious memories. First, he forgot the exact sound of his father's laugh. Then the detailed layout of his childhood home vanished into thin air. A terrifying coldness gripped his heart as he realized his mind was slowly emptying. He desperately clung to thoughts of Ilara. He repeatedly whispered her name, holding on to the deep feeling of her love even when the visual image of her face began to blur in his tired brain. It was a heavy, suffocating despair. He fell to his knees in the dark tunnel, crying out in raw agony as pieces of his identity physically ripped away and turned into floating crystals around him. But in that terrible darkness, the raw emotion of love remained untouched. The miners called it the crystal drain, a ruthless psychological filter. He could lose every simple fact he ever knew, but he refused to lose the profound connection he shared with his wife. He stood back up very slowly and walked forward now. Walking forward brought him to a massive underground chamber made entirely of black stones. This was the central archive of the original colony founders. In the middle of the room sat a huge pulsing cluster of jagged red crystals. Cale reached out his trembling hand and touched the sharpest point. A terrifying wave of information slammed into him. He saw the harsh truth of the settlement's early days. The colony was failing, and the crops were completely dying. To secure the survival of the adults, the desperate leaders made a dark pact with the ancient alien intelligence living beneath Elysia. The planet demanded innocent energy to fix the toxic soil. The leaders deliberately infected their own children, including poor Leo, pretending it was a natural fever. They traded the sick kids to the shadows in exchange for agricultural prosperity. Cale felt his stomach twist in violent sickness. The ultimate betrayal was entirely documented right here in cold stone. His child did not die by accident. He was sacrificed by the very people who built the medical center many long years ago now. Right next to that horrifying revelation, another small memory stone caught his eye. This one felt incredibly warm and familiar. As Cale picked it up, he was thrown into a clear vision of his wife. It was Ilara, standing alone in the rain 5 years ago, screaming at the colony leaders. She had secretly uncovered their disgusting plan. In the vision, guards violently grabbed her, dragging her away as she fought like a furious lioness to save her son. They locked her in a containment cell, heavily drugging her to ensure she would never remember the truth. She had sacrificed her own freedom and her mind trying to protect Leo. Cale fell apart, crying tears of profound admiration and terrible sorrow. His wife was a hidden hero who carried a broken heart she could not even understand. Her fierce love was the strongest force he had ever witnessed. He gently put the stone into his pocket, swearing that her incredible bravery would never be forgotten again. He was ready to face the dark shadow right now without any fear at all today. The dark shadow waited at the very bottom of the ancient cavern. It was not a monster, but a massive, shifting entity made of pure consciousness and singing glass. When Cale approached, the entity spoke directly into his bleeding mind without using words. It showed him thousands of glowing souls, including little Leo, trapped inside the crystal network, powering the planet's ecosystem. The entity explained that it did not understand human morality, it only understood the exchange of equal energy. To release the captive souls of the innocent children, it required a willing sacrifice of immense emotional weight. It demanded a memory so powerful, so filled with pure human light, that it could replace the raw energy of 1,000 trapped minds. Cale knew exactly what he had to give. He had one memory left that defied the toxic atmosphere, a memory that defined his entire existence. He stepped closer to the vibrating entity, took a deep breath, and prepared to surrender the most beautiful piece of his soul to save his little son and the other lost children here today. He closed his eyes and offered the entity the memory of his wedding day with Ilara. It was not just a visual image, it was the overwhelming, unconditional feeling of giving your entire life to another person. He pushed the memory forward, letting the entity experience the quiet warmth of their first kiss, the unshakable trust in her smile, and the quiet promise to always protect each other. It was the purest form of human love, untouched by fear or selfishness. As the memory left his mind, a sharp, cold emptiness briefly struck his chest. He was willingly giving away the best day of his life, fully knowing he would never remember the details of it again. He could feel the golden light of that day flowing out of his fingertips, turning into a brilliant, blinding crystal of pure white energy. The offering was a silent testament to a husband's absolute devotion. Tears streamed down his dirty face as the beautiful images faded into blankness, but a deep, unexplainable warmth stubbornly remained securely inside his brave, beating heart right now, forever. The massive alien entity absorbed the glowing white crystal, and the entire cavern fell completely silent. For a tense moment, absolutely nothing happened. Then a spectacular wave of bright, warm light exploded from the center of the room. The terrifying black rocks and jagged red crystals instantly transformed into clear, sparkling diamonds. The native intelligence had never tasted such pure, selfless kindness before. It was completely overwhelmed by the quiet beauty of a human choosing love over their own mind. A melodic hum filled the air as the network gently shattered. Thousands of tiny glowing orbs floated up toward the cavern's ceiling like a gentle snowstorm moving in reverse. The captive souls were finally free. Kale watched in awe as one bright blue orb paused right in front of his face. It pulsed with a familiar, playful rhythm. It was little Leo saying a final, loving goodbye before fading into the peaceful atmosphere. The heavy curse of Elysia was finally broken by a single act of immense generosity and pure human compassion down in the deep, dark cave system here today. When Kale finally emerged from the underground abyss, the toxic clouds above the settlement were clearing, revealing a bright, beautiful sunrise. Alara was waiting for him at the heavy metal gates. He walked up to her, feeling incredibly light and peaceful. He looked into her kind brown eyes, and even though he could no longer remember the specific details of their wedding day, his heart recognized her instantly. The pure feeling of their connection was far stronger than any visual memory. He smiled, gently taking her warm hands in his. They had exposed the terrible lie, freed the lost children, and survived the darkest depths of grief together. Their incredible journey proved that even in a harsh, terrifying universe, sincere kindness and selfless sacrifice can heal the deepest wounds. They stood together in the warm morning light, ready to build a new, honest life on Elysia. No more secrets, no more shadows, just a quiet, profound happiness. Love is an energy that can never truly be destroyed, only beautifully transformed into a much brighter tomorrow for everyone living peacefully here today.